Why are we listening to rappers about how government should be run, who we should be voting for, what kind of politics we should be supporting? Like, isn't their job just to rap? Let's leave the policy and, you know, improving the country to the experts. Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. That's the attitude of a lot of people who have critiqued the steps and the things that were said by several rappers, including Ice Cube, for daring to step up to the plate and say that what's going on is not acceptable, that continuing to vote for the same people, the same party, and get nothing in return makes no sense. That pissed people off because there was things being given in return. It just wasn't for all of us. Up until this point, in return, people were getting jobs, people were getting cushy positions, people were getting access to these politicians, people were getting all kinds of special favors in exchange for them convincing us to vote for them, you know. But Ice Cube last year really ruffled some feathers. He came out with a contract. In fact, he wrote an op-ed. And the op-ed really put people on notice. And in his op-ed, he really ruffled feathers. So on July 29th, he wrote an op-ed where he addressed how that there needed to be actual, tangible results that black people were getting for their votes. He talked about changes in the areas of banking and finance, justice, policing, education, Hollywood depictions, and as well as the system of reparations. This is directly out of his op-ed in The Hill. But he did what he did and what he said, like I said, caused an uproar because there were a bunch of people who wanted us to just fall in line, keep voting for the same people, and let them get the rewards for convincing us to keep voting for the same people and getting nothing for ourselves. But hey, they get positions. Because let's just stop and think about what they mean when they say, oh yes, we need representation in the administration. What they're saying is all of us, the entire black community has to vote for this particular candidate so that they and their friends can get jobs in the administration. And they'll couch it as, oh yes, you get black people in the administration. No, it's a job for them and their friends. That's what they're talking about. It's promotions and positions of privilege for them and their friends. That's why we are supposed to vote for the people they're telling us to vote for. It's slick, but if we actually stopped and thought about it, we'd be like, wait a minute. What are we getting out of this deal? Ice Cube asked that question and pissed people off in the process. But here, remember, it's 2020. Joe Biden is not looking, he's looking like he's going to be the Democratic nominee. He's not looking like a particularly strong candidate. Quite frankly, he wasn't a particularly strong candidate. What you did have, though, you had a global pandemic, statewide, well, like nationwide, various states were in various states of lockdown, economic turmoil, civil unrest, people were protesting and rioting, and it was linked to George Floyd, but it was about more than George Floyd. And it was like, okay, what the hell's going to happen? Like at this point, Trump was still had huge amounts of support, and by November, by the time the election came around, we'll see that he actually grew support. But people were nervous. People were nervous, and people wanted Trump out for various reasons, and they're not all selfless reasons like they would have us believe. But they wanted Trump out, and once Ice Cube said this really pissed people off because it's like, okay, hey. He's interfering with, like, we need all the help we can get. Joe Biden is sounding incoherent. He's like having difficulty getting through through speeches. He's not looking great. He's not looking very strong. We just need to keep everybody calm, make sure everybody does what they've been doing. And Ice Cube, you're starting trouble.
I've still been trying to understand, when did love Ice Cube, but when did Ice Cube become the representative for black people? I don't know if I missed that memo that Ice Cube was our representative.
When did Ice Cube become the black representative? When did Cardi B become the black representative? When did any of these people that they trotted out to shill for Joe Biden become the black representative? Stop it. Just stop it.
I don't think that black people were necessarily just upset that he met with Trump. It was the timing that he met with Trump. He met with Trump 18 days before the election. He met with Trump during the time where Trump was paying rapper, black influential men, using them, giving them. 50 Cent came forward and said that he was paid a large amount of money to endorse Trump. You saw the same thing with Lil Wayne. So it was the timing. The timing was really bad. It wasn't that he wanted to meet with them. You could have done this. He was in office for 4 years. You could have given him the contract with Black America 2 years ago. Then we would have been like, okay, great. Look at you, Ice Cube, 2 years in, trying to help us out. 18 days before the election, it was bad timing.
And this is a lie. This is absolute bull. Because to say that it was the timing, when in fact, Ice Cube came out with the plan months before. So in July, he has the plan out. He does the op-ed for The Hill. And just because the media doesn't want to cover it. The media doesn't want to talk about it because the media doesn't want us realizing, wait a minute, why are we continually voting for these scumbags? So the media waited to the last minute because they saw that Biden was in trouble. So now they were worried that, okay, we gotta make sure we castigate and deride and assassinate Ice Cube's character right before the election. That's why it was being so well covered right before the election, because the media that you're not holding accountable chose to wait until then to do it because they felt that, oh man, the numbers with Joe Biden's numbers with black males aren't as good as they should be. And so they decided now to cover it. And as far as him meeting with him, the fact that 18 days Trump decided to do it, that could have been used as criticism. Why did Trump wait till just now? You could have asked that question. You didn't. You know why? Because Joe Biden wasn't meeting with him at all. So you couldn't ask that question about why Trump was waiting till 18 days to finally have this meeting and not say, well, Joe Biden didn't meet with him at all.
I think words mean things. And I do think that his actions and his words were supportive of Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
And I understand that at the end of it, he was like, no, I'm not saying that this is my favorite president. This is who I pick. But his actions were supportive of Donald Trump. Right in the middle of an election cycle, he came out and said, Trump is going to do you better. He was saying those things. He came out and
he didn't say those things. Ice Cube didn't say those things. That was just a complete lie.
There was a lack of activists, also people who have been doing this work, who may not have the fame and the stardom, but people who have been doing this work. There was a lack of their participation in this. And so for him to come out and say as if he deserved something, I almost think, I don't think Joe Biden should meet with him now. And I know that, like, I think that the president is really busy and there are other people who he should be meeting with when it comes to talking about the
I think this is
needs of Black
unfinished
America.
business. I disagree with that. Yeah.
And then to say that you don't think, like, you're making all kinds of excuses to try to downplay and sweep this under the rug. And then, oh yeah, Joe Biden shouldn't even meet with him. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But see, this is what I'm saying. You've got the shills who will jump into place and try to protect the bosses and their own self-interest at the expense of the rest of us. But this is what I'm talking about. I mean, this is, and I like that the brother was like, no, he definitely should meet with him. But yeah, she has clear hostility towards Ice Cube. And in my opinion, it's because she seems like a shill, because she's just straight up lying about Ice Cube basically endorsing Trump. Like, no, he didn't do that. He did not do that. He called out Biden for not meeting with him, as he should have. As he should have.
Well, Joe Biden can't propose legislation right now in order to earn our votes. What is he going to say? And I think, frankly, I thought his approach to Ice Cube, as Ice Cube described it to me, seemed to make sense.
To make the statement that Joe Biden couldn't propose legislation at that time, I don't think that brother is stupid, but he must think, the viewers are. because that's absurd. Like Joe Biden proposed a whole, like that's his job. That's his job in running for office. He's proposing all types of legislation. He's proposing all types of executive orders, all types of activity and policies that he's going to promote, that he's going to write, send to the legislator, and try to get them to back. Like there's all types of legislation, executive orders, policies, agendas that he's advocating for, that he's saying that he's going to do. So to sit there and say, oh well, he can't make any what he's making a bunch of promises that he's already shown that he's broken a bunch of them. But the fact is that he wasn't even willing to make those promises shows you just how dismissive he was and is of us. Because he's like, I'm not even gonna promise y'all. Like I'm just gonna give you the platitude of yeah, we'll talk later. Other people he made promises to, yeah, he's going to break those promises. He's already broken a bunch of promises, but he didn't even think enough of the black community to actually make promises. He just blew us off. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's the frustrating part, right? Because the Congressional Black Caucus has a very comprehensive plan. Our friend Alicia Garza, one of the founders of Black Lives Matter, has a very comprehensive plan. So the hubris that Ice Cube am going to come in and save the day for Black America.
So if there were other plans that Ice Cube could have tacked on to, question, why didn't Joe Biden support those plans? If the Congressional Black Caucus had a comprehensive plan, why isn't it Joe Biden's plan? Why shouldn't Joe Biden, and if it's more comprehensive than Ice Cube's plan, why couldn't Joe Biden say, oh, well, look, our plan is more comprehensive than what you're talking about. We're doing this. We're beyond that. Why couldn't he do that? Because they don't have a plan. Their plan is, what do the Democrats want? Okay, yeah, that's the plan. That's their plan. I'm glad he started trouble. Because for all the people that say, shut up, you're just a rapper. Let the experts handle this. Well, why haven't the experts been handling it? Why did it take a rapper to stand up and say, hey, no, we need tangibles. We need something for the people. This has been going on for too long, and we, the people, aren't getting anything for it. So actually, I want to take a look at some of the contract with Black America and the summary, because the current document has 40 something pages, and that will take a while, and we'll go into it later. But right now, I wanted to take a look at the summary of it because it's ambitious, and it's something that really needed to be done, and I'm glad somebody did do it. And it tells you something that it was a rapper. It tells you something that all of the people that are criticizing Ice Cube, that criticized him last year, that try to act like he's a Trump supporter just because he came out with tangibles, that are trying to act like he was trying to interfere. Like, what is Joe Biden doing for black people? Like, we could have asked that before, but now that we're in April of 2021, we can actually see that all of the power, he says, oh, well, I can't just wave a magic wand. When they want to, they wave a magic wand. For special interest groups that they actually want to serve, they wave a magic wand. When they want to lock people up, black people up, oh yeah, they can wave a magic wand. When it comes time to giving black people some kind of benefits, then all of a sudden, oh, we can't find the magic wand. Oh, we don't have a magic wand. Sorry. But I want to just take a look at some of the things in this contract with Black America. I think it is. It's something that was absolutely needed. And the fact that a rapper is the one that came up with shouldn't make us think less of the document. It should make us think more about who we're looking at, who our so-called leaders are. And so now we have the contract of Black America here, contract with Black America. And one of the things it talks about, and so yeah, and he talks about the catalyst, because this was a catalyst for so much activity. The killing of George Floyd, and then the wave that came from there. Like the energy, the momentum from that moment was so significant that it really did motivate a lot of us to say we have to do more. Like, we can't just sit back and depend on the people who are demonstrating that they can't be depended on. Like the so-called leaders, the so-called ones that are in positions of power and authority and have the expertise and aren't doing jack shit. We could not sit back and let them continue to do nothing. Like, people were dying, people's lives were being just absolutely destroyed, and it's like, no, something has to happen. And what really resonated with me was the fact that Joe Biden was the nominee. And the way he became the nominee made me realize, okay, yeah, this is out of control. This is absolutely unacceptable. And if you know what Joe Biden's history on criminal justice, and it's not just the 94 crime bill, it goes beyond that. Just talk about 100 to 1. Like, you can just start there and realize how horrible Joe Biden has been for decades. And the fact that he wasn't chosen, that he wasn't voted for, he was selected. The establishment, the Democratic Party, selected him. But yeah, so let's take a look at some of the things. So now with the summary, it points out to 13 separate, 13 distinct, portions, and like number one is guaranteeing black opportunity and representation. So it talks about like a neo-reconstruction, a formal apology to black Americans for discrimination, slavery. Black affirmative action is one of the things that they're advocating for, public and private, per student funding in states instead of based on local property taxes, black representation in government civil rights bodies, and Juneteenth to become a federal holiday, among other things. So the second portion is bank lending reform. It requires bank to lend a percentage of all loans on an equal basis to the black population each bank serves. The minimum threshold must yearly meet the percentage equal to the national black population, currently approximately 13.4%. Rates on black loans federally and from banks to be the same average rate as whites. So now already you see an interesting thing in like this. There are tangibles, but he's talking about economics, which is something that a lot of people don't want to talk about, especially in the terms of when it comes to economics and blacks. So many people just want to talk about welfare and just take these little crumbs. But he's looking beyond that. So federal funding of baby bonds. So now this is like some type of it seems to me like a UBI kind of thing. And I remember, I think it was during the election, while Booker was still in, he was talking about this, where children get $1,000 at birth, and so lower wealth families receive these contributions each year up to $46,000, so that at age 18, the funds can be used by the child that just turned 18. Then you have the Federal Reserve and government pensions. So it says, for qualified black Americans, they want the Federal Reserve to allow one-time interest-free loan for home ownership. I mean, home ownership is, if you take a look at the redlining and stuff that happened when the New Deal was implemented and how black people were, shut out of that, this is one of the things he's talking about to try to undo the damage done, or level, not even undo, but level the playing field. He also talks about having the Fed adopt modern monetary theory with the goal of full employment and avoidance of actual inflation. Venture capital and private equity funds must invest 13.4% of their total funds in black-owned businesses. Like, there's a lot of, in fact, one of the things I have to point out that, and I don't think it's in the summary, I think it's in the full version where it says that capitalism is a good system. So right then and there's going to be people on the far left who are just going to be pissed off because if you've seen some of my videos earlier this week, there are people who are saying that, oh no, black capitalism isn't the answer. Black capitalism is the enemy of black people. It's a system that shouldn't exist. But that's not Ice Cube's view or the experts that he was working with in coming up with this plan. Section number 5, finance oversight. They talk about a banking commission being set up to overlook and report on black and minority lending, housing ownership and mortgages, and enforcement of some of the other items. He also talks about economic opportunity zones, community reinvestment, to determine who's benefiting from the disbursement of such funds, which is interesting because these economic opportunity zones, just because they're in a black area, doesn't mean black people are benefiting from them. And there were people who were shrewd enough to point this out. Sonny Johnson did a really good job face to face with Donald Trump. She wasn't going for the talking points. She wasn't going for the banana in the tail. Like she went to the heart of it of like, well, even with these economic opportunity zones, if the Democrats are in control of the disbursement of those funds, that means that black people, anybody who wants, still has to go to these people to get the funds, and they're going to wind up giving it to their buddies, their friends, and the people who are connected. So that's one of the interesting things. That's one of the reasons why you have so many people who will try to convince us to vote for these people, because they know with that person in office, they can personally benefit. So that was finance oversight, personal data and credit. It talks about how reforming credit services so that consideration of individual consumer data on rent, utility, cell phone, and other like payments can be used to help people's credit. Also talks about the 1970 Fair Credit Act regarding credit data, making sure there's guidelines regarding arrest records that allow similar privacy and accuracy protections and the right to dispute and correct inaccurate data. Then he gets to something that is near and dear to my heart, prison reform. Talks about abolishing privately run prisons, stopping forced prison labor, and making sure that nonviolent offenders don't spend more than 10 years, or who are spending 10 years or longer will be free if they're acting with good behavior. Freeing everybody from marijuana possession. In fact, first offense for drug use or possession requiring alternatives to incarceration. And voting rights, the restoration of voting rights for any prisoner that completes their sentence. He also talks about judicial reforms in Section 8. So that's eliminating mandatory minimums and 3-strike laws. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, having stricter oversight and greater oversight over police departments. And then making that the DOJ can be sued for non-compliance. And making lynching a federal hate crime. 9, the Police Reform Act. So it's talking about an expansive act that will include ending qualified immunity, where we can look in certain areas in the country, qualified immunity is now ending. That's a really interesting thing. Mandatory malpractice insurance for police officers. That's like, instead of taxpayers having to pay out for these acts of police misconduct, making them liable themselves. That makes it interesting. That really makes things interesting. Making municipalities liable for unconstitutional actions by police, mandatory use of dashboard and body cams, elimination of certain techniques that have, led to death, and a federal database of police and disciplinary records that would be established and made public once so that individuals fired for cause can't be rehired. You can't just go to a different police department in a different area and become a dirty cop there. Section 10 on the licensing of public airwaves. making sure that broadcast networks air black-produced content equal to 20% of the total content on the network, as measured by time. 11, getting rid of Confederate monuments, institutions, streets, renaming streets, schools that are named after Confederate leaders. I was like, it was interesting to find out that certain military bases are named after Confederate. Like, I'm like, how does that make sense to name a military base after somebody you fought against? Hey, I'm just saying. The a public-private Section 12 is about a program for education and jobs. So it's like a training program that's a public-private hybrid. And then 13, Black responsibility, talking about the poverty that creates negative and just bad environments. And so dealing with these issues that are plaguing the Black community, and so it's about gaining social and economic equality, cleaning up the community. And so this part seems less, so what I find interesting about this part, it seems less geared towards the government and more geared at the Black community, which I don't. So if you're making this contract for for a politician to sign on, I guess maybe this section is to let the politician know that it is a two-way street, as opposed to just demands. But at the same point, I'm like, hey, the politicians, their job is to serve. They're supposed to be public servants. So yeah, give them a list of demands, and anything we need to do that's outside of what they need to do, we can work on separately and distinctly. But it's interesting that he talks about entertainers delivering more positive content that leads our youth to make better choices in life. That's interesting. That's a really interesting portion of the summary. And this is, I'm really interested in knowing what your thoughts and feelings are about this. There's some things in there I really like, some things I don't agree with. I love that Ice Cube stepped up to the plate and did something. He's like, enough of waiting. These so-called leaders clearly aren't getting the job done. I have a platform, I have visibility, I have money, I have resources. I'm going to step up to the plate and do it. And you see how even with as much street cred as Ice Cube has, they still try to play this game of like, they tried to play this thing about it. They tried to paint Ice Cube as a white supremacist. That shows you how devious, how corrupt, how conniving, how horrible pieces of waste these people are. They are the enemy, and they make it clear with every day. They make it more and more clear. But by all means, I want you to, hey, check out I'm going to leave a link to the Contract with Black America. Tell me, comment below what did you think of it? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And this is just the beginning, because there's so much work that needs to be done. There's so much accountability that needs to be that these politicians need to be held accountable. The so-called leaders need to be kicked to the curb because they're just in the way. And as always, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, comment below, like I said. And if you don't like what I've said, if you don't like this commentary, give me a thumbs down. But if you give me a thumbs down, be sure to comment below why, so I can address it either in the comments or in a future video. I'll see you next time.